The galaxy believed humans were small, weak, and easy to control. That belief was why the slave ship Golden Chain flew without fear through the outer trade lanes. It was large, armed, and protected by contracts signed in quiet rooms. No patrols would stop it. No heroes would come. That belief was wrong. Captain Ethan Hale sat alone in the cockpit of his old human freighter, Wayfarer. The ship was scarred, patched, and held together by stubborn engineering and hope. It was not a warship. It was not fast by galactic standards. But it was human. A warning light blinked on his console. Distress signal, the ship's computer said in a calm voice. Source classified as non-registered civilian. Ethan leaned forward. His brown eyes narrowed as the data appeared. The signal was weak, hidden, masked behind false noise. He recognized the pattern. Slave ships always hid their screams. Location? He asked. 30,000 kilometers ahead. Matching vessel profile. Golden Chain. The computer replied. Ethan exhaled slowly. The Golden Chain was infamous. Rumors followed it like shadows. Entire species whispered its name with fear. The Galactic Coalition officially claimed the ship did not exist. Ethan had heard that lie before. He looked at the stars ahead, endless and cold. He could turn away. Most pilots did. It was safer. Legal. Easy. Instead, Ethan powered up the engines. Set intercept course, he said. Captain, the computer replied. This action carries a 92% probability of fatal outcome. Ethan smiled faintly. Drop it to 90, he said. I like round numbers. Inside the Golden Chain, Lireth lay curled on a metal floor. Her wrists were bound with energy cuffs that burned her skin if she moved too much. The air was stale. The lights were dim. She had learned not to cry. Crying attracted attention. Around her, other captives lay in silence. Different species. Different worlds. Same fate. They had all been labeled non-sapient labor stock by corporations that never looked into their eyes. Lireth remembered her home, blue forests, singing winds. She remembered freedom. That felt like another life. Suddenly, the ship shuddered. The captives looked up in fear. What is happening? Someone whispered. Another tremor ran through the hull. This one's stronger. Warning sirens blared. That never happened. Slave ships did not get attacked. The Wayfarer burst from hyperspace like a thrown knife. Ethan did not open communications. He did not issue threats. He did not ask permission. He fired. The first shot was not lethal. It was smart. A focused burst of electromagnetic energy slammed into the slave ship's sensors. Screens went dark. Targeting systems failed. Inside the Golden Chain, alarms screamed. What species dares? A slaver officer began. The ship rocked as a second human weapon hit. Not plasma. Not lasers. A human boarding spike punched into the hull. That's impossible, someone shouted. Humans were not known for boarding actions. Too risky. Too direct. Ethan Hale loved risky and direct. Ethan moved through the slave ship's corridors with fast, controlled steps. His suit was simple. No glowing armor. No dramatic symbols. Just black plating and a human flag patch on his shoulder. Slavers rushed him. They were stronger than him. They were faster. They lost. Humans fought differently. Ethan used walls, corners, gravity shifts, and pure, stubborn refusal to fall. He disabled weapons. He broke restraints. He never killed unless there was no other choice. Stay down, he told one slaver, as the alien groaned on the floor. This is over. It was not over. More guards came. Ethan's suit warned him of rising heat levels and internal damage. His breathing grew heavy. Still, he advanced. When he reached the holding decks, the doors were sealed. Override, he said. Manual access required, the computer replied. Ethan placed his hands on the metal and forced them apart with a portable spreader. The metal screamed as it bent. Inside, dozens of eyes stared at him. Fear, hope, confusion. I'm human, Ethan said loudly, lowering his weapon. I'm here to get you out. I'm here to get you out, Silence followed. Lireth stared at him from the floor. He was smaller than the slavers, less armored, bleeding from his side, yet he stood between them and their captors. "You are not here to claim us?" she asked carefully. Ethan shook his head. "No one owns you," he said. "Not today. Not ever." Something inside Lireth broke. Not fear. A chain. The escape was chaos. Ethan moved the captives toward his ship, while the golden chain tried to recover systems. Fires spread. Structural warnings echoed through the halls. A blast hit nearby. Ethan was thrown against a wall. Pain flashed through his ribs. He stood back up. Humans always did. Lireth stumbled beside him, weak from weeks of confinement. When she fell, Ethan caught her. "Easy," he said. "I've got you." No one had said that to her in a long time. They reached the airlock just as the slave ship began to tear itself apart. "Go!" Ethan shouted, guiding the captives onto the Wayfarer. He was the last to enter. The moment the hatch sealed, the golden chain exploded behind them, scattering fire and debris across space. Ethan collapsed into the pilot's seat. His vision blurred. Warnings filled the cockpit. "Captain," the computer said, "you are critically injured." "I know," Ethan muttered. "Plot jump. Anywhere safe." The ship jumped. Behind him, the rescued aliens gathered, stunned and silent. Lireth watched the human who had broken an entire system for strangers. As the stars stretched into lines, she felt her strength fade. Darkness pulled at her. She fell forward. Ethan turned just in time to catch her again. "Hey," he said softly. "Stay with me." But Lireth slipped into unconsciousness. Ethan looked at her injuries, then at the ship's layout. There was only one place with a functioning medical unit. His quarters. "Computer," he said, forcing himself to stay awake. "Medical emergency protocol. Prep the pod." Acknowledged. As the ship carried them into the unknown, Ethan Hale made one more choice. A human choice. And somewhere in the galaxy, a lie about humans began to die. The Wayfarer drifted through silent space, its engines cooling after the jump. Inside the ship, the lights were dimmed to emergency levels. The battle was over. But the cost had not yet been counted. Ethan Hale stood in his small sleeping cabin, his back pressed against the wall as he tried to stay upright. The medical pod hummed softly beside his bed. Inside, it lay Lireth. Her skin, pale blue with faint silver markings, glowed gently under the pod's healing light. Thin lines of energy wrapped around her wrists, where the cuffs had once burned her. The pod worked to repair damaged tissue, but it could not erase memory. Ethan wiped blood from his lip and checked the display. "Status?" he asked. "Patient is stable," the ship's computer replied. "Severe exhaustion, malnutrition, neural stress. Full recovery will require time and safety." "Good," Ethan said quietly. He sat down on the edge of his bed. The pain in his ribs sharp, but manageable. He had dealt with worse. What worried him more was what would happen when Lireth woke up. For her, waking up meant fear. Lireth dreamed of chains. Not the metal kind, the invisible kind. Orders spoken calmly. Numbers assigned instead of names. The feeling of being watched, measured, and owned. Then something changed. The chains cracked. She heard a voice again. Human. Calm. Strong. "No one owns you." Her eyes opened. The first thing she saw was a low ceiling. Smooth metal. Soft light. Not a cell. Not a cargo hold. She tried to move, and froze. She was lying on a wide surface, covered in soft fabric. A bed. Her heart raced. She pushed herself up, pain flashing through her body. The pod's field faded as she moved. Her eyes searched the room and found him. The human was sitting nearby, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. His suit was gone. He wore simple clothing. His face looked tired, bruised, and very human. Fear rose fast. She scrambled backward, pressing herself against the wall. "You," her voice shook. "Why am I here?" Ethan lifted his hands slowly. "Easy," he said. "You're safe. You were hurt. This was the only medical pod I had." She looked around again. The bed, the personal items, the small room. This was his sleeping place. Her breathing quickened. In my culture, she said carefully, being placed in a resting space means ownership, bonding, control. Ethan blinked. Oh, he said. No. No, that's not how it works for us. He stood slowly and took a step back to give her space. This is just a room, he explained. A place to sleep. I only put you here because the med unit is built into the bed. She stared at him, confused. You expect nothing? She asked. Ethan shook his head. You're free, he said simply. I don't own you. I don't want payment. I don't want service. You don't owe me anything. Her mind struggled with the words. That concept did not exist where she came from. Outside the cabin, the other rescued aliens waited in tense silence. They had been given food, water, and blankets. No guards, no locks. That made it worse. Slavery had taught them one truth. Kindness always came with a price. Ethan stepped into the main hold, moving slowly because of his injuries. Listen, he said, speaking clearly. They watched him closely. You're not prisoners. You're not cargo. You're guests. A murmur spread through the group. One of you is injured, Ethan continued. She's recovering. The rest of you, once we reach a safe system, you'll be free to go wherever you want. I'll help if I can. Why? An older alien asked. Ethan paused. Because it's wrong, he said. And because humans don't walk away when we see something wrong. The aliens exchanged looks. None of them had ever heard that before. Back in the cabin, Lireth sat on the edge of the bed, wrapped in a blanket. The material was warm and soft. She had almost forgotten what comfort felt like. Ethan returned and placed a small tray on the floor between them. Food, he said. It's simple. Might taste strange. She hesitated, then took it. The food was bland, but nourishing. As she ate, she studied him. He was injured. His movements were stiff. He should have been resting. Why do humans do this? She asked suddenly. Ethan looked up. Do what? Risk themselves for strangers, she said. Fight systems older than your species' place in space. He thought for a moment. Because we remember what it's like to be powerless, he said. And we don't like seeing others there. She absorbed that. In her experience, power meant control, cruelty, distance. Humans were different. A warning tone echoed through the ship. Ethan frowned and moved to the cockpit. Lireth followed slowly, staying near the doorway. Coalition patrol detected, the computer reported. Long-range scan only. They have not yet identified us. Ethan cursed under his breath. The coalition claimed to oppose slavery. In reality, they tolerated it when profit was involved. If they recognize the ship, they'll try to take us back, Lireth said softly. Ethan turned. No, he said firmly. They won't. How can you be sure? Because I won't let them. The ship adjusted course, drifting quietly through debris and shadow. But deep down, Ethan knew the truth. Sooner or later, the galaxy would notice. That night cycle, Lireth lay back on the bed again. The medpod had finished its work, but her body was still weak. Ethan slept in a chair near the door, just in case she woke afraid. She watched him breathe. A guard would never sleep like that. A master would never make himself vulnerable. Slowly, carefully, she relaxed. For the first time since her capture, she slept without chains. Outside, the stars waited, and somewhere beyond them, forces far larger than one human ship were beginning to turn their attention toward Wayfarer. The Wayfarer could not hide forever. For 2 quiet cycles, Ethan Hale kept his ship in dark space, moving slowly between asteroid shadows and broken debris fields. He avoided trade lanes. He avoided beacons. He avoided hope that this would all pass. It never did. The signal came without warning. Unidentified vessel. The ship's computer announced. You are ordered to stop and prepare for inspection by authority of the Galactic Coalition. Ethan closed his eyes for 1 second. Then he opened them again. Send reply, he said. Civilian vessel responding. The screen flickered to life. 3 coalition ships appeared. Clean, bright, powerful. Their symbols marked them as keepers of law and balance. Lireth stood behind Ethan, her hands clenched tightly together. "They will take us," she said quietly. "They will say we are property." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Not without a fight," he replied. The coalition commander appeared on the screen. Tall, calm, cold, human vessel. The commander said, "You are in violation of interstellar trade law. You are carrying unauthorized biological assets removed from a registered transport." Ethan leaned forward. "They're people," he said. "Not assets." The commander's eyes flicked down to data. "The beings you refer to are classified as indentured labor species," the commander replied. "Their removal constitutes theft." Lireth stepped forward. "I am not property," she said clearly. The commander paused, surprised. "Identification?" "My name is Lireth of the Sylvan Reach," she said. "I was taken by force. I did not consent." The commander's expression hardened. "Consent is not recognized for your classification." Ethan stood. "That classification is wrong," he said. "And you know it." Silence filled the channel. "Prepare to be boarded," the commander ordered. Ethan did not comply. Instead, he did something the galaxy did not expect. He opened all channels. Across nearby systems, a message spread. A simple message. Images followed. Recordings from the Golden Chain. Chains. Cells. Numbers burned into flesh. Screams muted by contracts. And then humans. A single human ship. A single human voice. "No one owns you. Not ever." The feed spread fast. Too fast. Coalition networks tried to shut it down. But human signal routing was messy, decentralized, and very hard to stop. Lireth watched the reactions flood in from dozens of species. Shock, anger, recognition. Others had suffered like her. Others were watching. The coalition commander's voice returned, strained now. "You have escalated this matter beyond your authority," the commander said. "Power down immediately." Ethan shook his head. "No," he said. "You escalated it by pretending this was legal." The commander leaned closer to the screen. "Human," he said. "Do you understand what you are doing? Your species is new. Weak. You rely on trade. On permission." Ethan smiled, but there was no humor in it. "We rely on each other," he said. "And we don't like bullies." On the Wayfarer, the rescued aliens gathered behind Ethan and Lireth. They stood together. Different shapes. Different worlds. One by one, they stepped forward. "I refuse return. I choose freedom. I will not go back." Their voices were unsteady, but real. The coalition ships hesitated. They had weapons. They had authority. But now, they had witnesses. Across the galaxy, the reaction grew. Independent worlds demanded answers. Old slave contracts were questioned. Protests erupted on stations that had been quiet for centuries. A dangerous idea spread. What if this was wrong? And worse for the coalition, what if humans were right? A new signal cut in. High authority clearance. The coalition high council. "Human captain," a new voice said, older and sharper. "You are ordered to surrender the individuals aboard your vessel. In return, your actions will be reviewed with leniency." Ethan looked at Lireth. She met his eyes. "I will not go back," she said, "even if it costs me everything." Ethan turned back to the screen. "No," he said. The word was calm, final. The council voice hardened. "Then you will be declared an enemy of the coalition." A ripple passed through the Wayfarer. The other aliens looked afraid. Ethan straightened. "Then write this down," he said. "The first thing humanity did when you tested us was say no." Weapons powered up on the coalition ships. The Wayfarer's systems screamed warnings. Ethan's ship could not win a straight fight. He knew that. But humans rarely fought straight. "Computer," he said quietly. "Begin. Broadcast package Human Alpha." Acknowledged. Across space, human networks lit up. Civilian ships. Traders. Explorers. And behind them, something heavier. Human defense fleets began changing course. They had been watching, waiting. The coalition commander hesitated. They had not expected backup. They had not expected unity. They had not expected a species to care this much about strangers. The High Council voice returned, slower now. "Human captain," it said, Stand by. Minutes passed. Finally, the weapons powered down. The coalition ships pulled back. This matter will be reconsidered, the voice said. The channel closed. The wayfarer was silent. Then someone laughed. A broken, disbelieving sound. They backed down, one alien whispered. Lireth sank into a seat, her legs shaking. Ethan let out a long breath. It was not over, but something had changed. Later, as the ship drifted toward a safe system, Lireth stood beside Ethan in the cockpit. You challenged the galaxy, she said. For us. For people, Ethan corrected. You're not alone anymore, she nodded slowly. In her culture, humans would now be legends, dangerous ones, not because they ruled, but because they refused to obey unjust rules. Outside the ship, stars burned bright, and everywhere, slavers began to feel afraid, because now the galaxy knew something new. If you built chains, humans would come. The wayfarer entered the safe system slowly, its engines humming in a tired but steady rhythm. The stars here were calmer. Trade stations drifted in wide orbits. Patrol beacons flashed softly, marking neutral ground. For the first time since the rescue, no one was chasing them. That did not mean they were safe. Ethan Hale sat alone in the cockpit, watching data scroll across the screens. Messages continued to arrive from all over human space. Some were simple words of support. Others carried warnings. The galaxy was watching now. Behind him, Lireth stood quietly. She was stronger than before. The color had returned to her skin. The marks from the cuffs were fading, though they would never fully disappear. Are we free? She asked. Ethan did not answer right away. We're safer, he said at last. Freedom takes longer. The coalition did not wait long to respond. A formal summons arrived within hours. Not a threat. Not yet. A request for negotiation at a nearby neutral station. They want to save face, Ethan said as he read the message, and control the story. Lireth folded her hands. They will try to separate us, she said. Offer safety in exchange for silence. Ethan nodded. That's why we won't go alone. The station was enormous, built to impress. Tall spires, smooth curves, bright banners showing unity and peace. It smelled of recycled air and old power. Ethan walked at the front of the group. Lireth stayed at his side. Behind them came the others he had rescued. They were no longer hunched or silent. They walked upright now. Coalition officials waited in a wide chamber of glass and metal. At the center stood members of the High Council. Their expressions were careful, controlled. Captain Hale, one of them said, you have caused considerable disruption. Ethan shrugged. I rescued people from slavery, he replied. If that disrupts things, maybe the problem isn't me. A few council members shifted uncomfortably. This issue is complex, another said. Economic systems are built on chains, Lireth interrupted. The room went quiet. She stepped forward. I will speak, she said. Not as property, not as a victim, but as a free being. The council allowed it, perhaps believing they could still control the outcome. They were wrong. Lireth told her story. She spoke of her home, her capture, the transport, the silence of the galaxy that had looked away. Then she spoke of the human, of a ship that should not have fought, but did, of a man who had every reason to leave but stayed, of a species that did not ask what they would gain. He placed me in his bed, she said calmly. Not to claim me, but to save my life. He slept in a chair, so I would not be afraid. Murmurs spread through the chamber. That is humanity, she continued. They do not see weakness as permission. They see it as a reason to act. The council tried to interrupt. Ethan stepped forward. No, he said. You'll listen. The human word carried weight now. Evidence followed. Human data specialists flooded coalition networks with proof. Contracts. Hidden routes. Payments made to look the other way. Worlds began to pull out of agreements. Trade slowed. Pressure mounted. The council realized they were losing more than control. They were losing legitimacy. Finally, the eldest council member spoke. The individuals aboard your ship, they said, will be recognized as free persons. A breath passed through the room. But, the council member continued, this must end here. Ethan smiled, slow and sharp. It won't, he said, but it will change. The decision was announced across the galaxy. Certain forms of indentured labor were outlawed. Oversight committees were formed. Investigations began. It was not enough. But it was a crack. And humans were very good at widening cracks. Weeks later, the Wayfarer prepared to depart. The rescued aliens said their goodbyes one by one. Some had destinations. Some had none. All of them left with choices. Lireth stood on the boarding ramp, looking out into space. You could leave, Ethan said gently. Find your people. Start again. She nodded. I could, she said. She did not move. Where will you go? He asked. She met his eyes. I want to stay, she said. For now. With you. Not because I must. Because I choose to. Ethan considered this. You don't owe me, he said. I know, she replied. That is why it matters. Back aboard the Wayfarer, the ship felt different. Not quieter. Not calmer. Stronger. Lireth rested again in the small cabin, still recovering. The bed was no longer a symbol of fear. It was a place of safety. Ethan worked in the cockpit, charting new routes. New signals were already coming in. Distress calls. Whispers. Slavers were moving faster now. Humans were coming faster too. Across the galaxy, stories spread. Not of fleets, not of conquest, but of a simple truth. If you enslaved the weak, if you hid behind laws and silence, if you believed no one would challenge you, humanity would, and they would not ask permission. As the Wayfarer jumped into the stars once more, Lireth watched the light stretch and fade. For the first time, she said softly, I am not afraid of tomorrow. Ethan smiled. Good, he said. Neither are we. The galaxy would never be the same, because one human had drawn a line, and humanity stood behind it.